Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics and, well, Theresa May wants to put her dead withdrawal deal back up for a vote next week, next Wednesday, just before the EU summit is the plan. Now, is she going to, first of all, be able to put it up? Because that is not a given. And then if she does, is it going to pass? So, in the red corner, basically, is on this one going to be the Speaker of the House, John Bercow. Now, this week he allowed a vote on a motion to prevent Theresa May from bringing her twice rejected deal back to the Commons for a third vote. However, the motion wasn't pushed in the end on the basis that the Speaker may not allow it anyway. In other words, the Speaker of the House, John Bercow, has to make a judgment, a ruling on whether the Prime Minister can even bring it back. Now, in this Brexit of blame, for me, this was a classic example of MPs trying to keep their hands clean instead of acting as they should be. But what about the prospect of the Speaker not allowing a third vote? Now, in UK Parliamentary Convention, you're not allowed to bring a motion to the House after it's already been defeated in that parliamentary session. The next session doesn't begin until well after March the 29th. So basically, Theresa May really shouldn't have even been allowed to bring it back a second time, sort of. At least not without changing the motion. If the motion is substantially changed, then they can. You are allowed to then bring it back. Now, I suppose that she would have argued in the second case that the extra document she attached to it and got agreement with the EU, there were two extra documents, but one of them didn't get agreement, was a substantial change. It wasn't, but the argument would have been made. So, would the motion be substantially changed? We know that she can't get any other agreements with the EU. They've completely closed the book on it, said, no, we've given you everything now, that is it. Now, I suppose the Kyle Wilson amendment could just do it. That would attempt to amend it so that the final say goes to the people in a second referendum. Jeremy Corbyn has indicated that he will support it if the wording's right. He's still not fully getting behind the amendment himself. Actually, I don't actually understand that. He is the leader of the Labour Party. Kyle and Wilson are both Labour MPs. Surely they could be working together on it. But even if he does support it, he's happy with the wording. He's also indicated today that he wouldn't whip his party to support it. So now we've got two leaders of the largest parties refusing to whip their MPs as well. Really annoying. But would the Speaker refuse May's motion? Now, technically he should. If it were a motion from any other MP, in a heartbeat, he would, and we wouldn't even be discussing it. This apparently happens when MPs try to put forward a motion. Maybe another MP has put forward earlier in the session that was basically the same thing, or maybe it was their own one, and they get told by the Speaker's office, no, it's already been up, sorry. But this is a motion from the Prime Minister on a matter of the utmost seriousness and of almost universal public interest. I wouldn't refuse it, I have to say. And so, yeah, by the rules, he should, but that's a big ask, especially as Theresa May is potentially being given some encouragement that it might actually pass this time. So she's currently engaged with the DUP, asking how much the bribe will need to be for them to support it. Number 10 and the DUP both deny that money is being discussed, but Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, has been attending those meetings. Now, I would say this. The Chancellor of the Exchequer attending such an important meeting wouldn't necessarily imply budgetary matters being discussed in normal circumstances. The Chancellor, after all, is traditionally the second most powerful MP in government. They even get an official residency right next door to the Prime Minister at number 11 Downing Street. But Hammond is not the usual sort of Chancellor. He hasn't seemed to hold any sway over any aspects of politics at all since obtaining his position. He simply discusses budgetary matters and economic forecasts, which is what a Chancellor does. Other Chancellors have tended to get involved in the wider running of the party and in party politics. He's never got himself publicly involved in any of those party or governmental discussions or anything outside of his own remit. So if he was at that meeting, they were discussing bribes, simple as that. And then almost, I suppose, said as much in a television interview in the very politician way of simply refusing to rule out financial inducements to get their support. He said that they won't put it up for another vote unless they believe that it has support, and that includes from the DUP. That suggests that they are aware they're not going to get support elsewhere. Now, people from Ireland have been commenting on videos and sending me message indicating that the DUP are coming under a great deal of pressure from back home, from a population who weren't all that favoured. There certainly weren't a majority in favour of leaving the EU in the first place, and are dead set on no deal, which would be far worse for them than anyone else in the world, really. So there's the potential for a carrot and a stick for the DUP there. The carrot from the government, bribing them with more public money that's already in short supply, really. It's probably going to be spent on removing all references to evolution in school books, I imagine. And then there's the stick from their own electorate as well. I mean, that being said, in this grandest of all games of chicken, the irony is that voting against the deal may be the surest way of ensuring that Brexit doesn't happen at all. And that's the surest way of ensuring that the relationship between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland remains fine until reunification, or if and when that happens. But I'd say the stakes, I guess, in Ireland are far too great to chance it. I imagine that the government accept that there just aren't likely to be more supporting it from the opposition benches. They had the support of 7 last time. So with 100% of the Conservatives backing it, that's almost but not quite enough to get it over the line, I think. And does she believe 100% that all of her MPs will back it? And that would require the ERG to do so. The ERG have hinted that they will if Theresa May either dissolves Parliament for another general election or dissolves her own premiership and steps down as Prime Minister. But I don't believe it until it happens, even if she agrees to either of those things. I know people keep thinking that they might because otherwise they risk no Brexit. But apart from anything else, you have to believe even if all of her MPs voted for it and the DUP as well, that's still not a big win for her. It doesn't take many Tory rebels to still sink it. And people need to understand that to the ERG, May's deal is a no Brexit. Yes, it's Brexit because we believe in the EU, but for them, it's no different. The backstop is a permanent connection to the EU that they cannot abide. They may feel that cancelling Brexit after another referendum is better in the long run because they can keep working on taking over the Conservative Party and then try again in 10 years' time. The backstop completely prevents that. Ireland's reunifying doesn't solve the problem either. You might think, well, if they reunify, the backstop disappears. Britain can do what it likes. The fact is that once the withdrawal agreement goes through, we then have to negotiate our final relationship with the EU. And that has to take into account the backstop. There is only one way that that can go, and that is with those red lines of Theresa May's being abandoned so that we can actually get a proper deal. And of course, if there were a general election and the Conservatives found themselves on the opposition benches, you can be quite sure that that would happen as well. No, for them, they need to ensure a complete break. But I wouldn't put it past them to say that they'll support it to waste a bit more time and then pull out. I can't be 100% sure, but I would be shocked if her agreement gets their, full support, shall we say. The odd one might support it. I can't believe all those ERG MPs will support it. I would be amazed. I would think it's far more likely to go through on the Kyle Wilson amendment support. But then that means getting her deal through, or sort of through, with Labour backing, but not backing or enough backing in her own party. Now, she could easily have done that ages ago if her prime concern was getting a withdrawal agreement through Parliament. She easily could have done that by seeking cross-party support a long time ago. It would have been done now. After all, the head of Labour, even though Labour in general don't want this, there are Labour MPs who want Brexit, and Jeremy Corbyn himself, the leader, also wants it. She easily could have come to an arrangement, but she didn't because she fears splitting the party. So what's changed now? Nothing's changed. That still hasn't happened. I might even suggest that if the Kyle Wilson amendment looks like going through and legally altering her own suggestion, she might even sink it herself. That's surely what the ERG would look to do. So, for Theresa May to put her deal up for a third time before MPs, and let's say this Friday, certainly it needs to be before the EU summit, The following three things need to happen. One, the Speaker has to allow it. Like I say, the rules technically say that he shouldn't, but I wouldn't be not denying it in his shoes, I have to say. It's unfair of the other MPs as well to put it on him, right? If those MPs didn't back that motion because they thought, well, she can't put it through, the Speaker's got to say so, that's deeply unfair because it's a huge call for him. And although he's made big calls before, not like this, and the wider public wouldn't understand it as well. It's bad. It's bad business. I wouldn't do it. I would allow it and just say it's Parliament's fault. The government has to be able to bribe the DUP into supporting it somehow. And three, the government also has to believe that all of their own MPs will support it. And that means the ERG. We'll find out on Wednesday, I guess. So I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.